Should the USA be stripped of the World Cup this summer? I do think it's time we actually sit down and have a discussion around this. Now, do I think it will happen? No. Not because they don't deserve to have it stripped from them due to the recent actions of their authorities and comments made by those in charge of the country, but because of FIFA's past. Now, is it possible to remove the USA as a host so late on with the World Cup just months away? Well, yes, of course it is. While fans may be furious due to arrangements already being made regarding travel and accommodation, it may be the safer option for many. However, FIFA have demonstrated in their past they're willing to work with dictatorships or regimes that people may consider questionable. Let me start with Benito Mussolini and his fascist regime in Italy. They held the competition in 1934. He was an early adapter of sports washing, understanding the prestige that winning sporting events could bestow upon a nation. Now, Italy did win the 1934 World Cup, and it would help promote national pride within the country. And less than a year later, the fascists would invade Abyssinia in an attempt to grow their empire and to get rid of scars of an embarrassing defeat in the 1800s. Then, in 1978, it would be the turn of Argentina and their authoritarian regime under Jorge Rafael Videla. His regime is remembered to this day for the disappeared, the large number of individuals and students that vanished, never to be found again under his regime. Again, the World Cup provided the perfect stage for Videla to demonstrate to the world the strength of his nation and his regime, again through winning the competition. And they did secure the trophy for the first time. Now, these events happened years and years ago, and people may be thinking, well, FIFA couldn't be doing that in the future or in the present. But looking towards more recent hosts, with sports washing becoming a popular term among much of Western media, particularly when talking about the Middle East, Vladimir Putin and his regime had begun their annexation of Crimea 4 years prior to the FIFA World Cup being staged in the country of Russia. Again, in 2022, much was made about the hosting of the World Cup in Qatar due to human rights violations in the preparation of the competition. Documentaries were made by several Western companies. Calls were made to boycott the World Cup, and there were questions raised about the lack of progressiveness, with particular scrutiny being placed by the LGBT community. Now, question must be asked: where is the scrutiny of the USA by the media, the likes of Gary Neville? The former Manchester United player made a whole documentary about the working conditions and the lack of human rights of many in Qatar. But now, where is the likes of him creating documentaries around the actions of the USA in recent months? In the past few weeks, Donald Trump, we cannot forget, the FIFA Peace Prize winner, and his regime have been involved in some questionable actions and made comments that may worry many around the world. The USA kidnapped Nicolas Maduro, and it doesn't matter what your thoughts or opinions are of the man himself. He was the leader of Venezuela at the start of 2026, be that wrongly having lost an election in 2024. However, it sets a bad precedent that a nation can go and invade another nation and kidnap their leader. Now, why did America do this? It was to hopefully instill a man who's more favourable to their desires. Obviously, could be a woman too, forgive my language, an individual for their desires, stripping the South American nation of its oil resources. Since then, Trump has threatened to remove the leaders of Colombia and Cuba as he looks to control the greater continent of America and with the interest of the USA being the kind of driving force behind this. At present, Trump and the USA has now threatened to invade Greenland, with this being to take their resources. Now, this would involve them taking the land from their NATO allies, Denmark. Russia were banned from competing in FIFA competitions due to their invasion of Ukraine. So, do we have to just wait for the USA to invade Greenland before they too are banned? Or will they be allowed to do this because they're hosting the World Cup and there'll be no ban coming? Now, aside from an aggressive foreign policy, life in domestic America should be considered when staging this World Cup, as thousands of travelling fans will be making their way to America and they may not feel safe. In the last 2 weeks, the death of three individuals by US officials have been widely publicised. Now, with ICE aiming to deport individuals from this country. The actions by ICE have been brought into question, with a heavy handed nature being widely condemned. As according to The Guardian in 2025, 32 individuals died in ICE custody. Now, this is not acceptable no matter what country you're in, as nobody should lose their life. Meanwhile, according to ProPublica, an investigative journalistic organisation, they've revealed that more than 170 US citizens have been held by immigration agents and have been accused of being kicked and dragged and detained for days. Again, this is not acceptable, particularly when the aims of ICE is to remove citizens that are illegal immigrants, but they are still managing to take US citizens into custody, potentially because of the way they look. Now, the World Cup is bringing fans from all across the world to watch their nations compete to lift the trophy, the greatest in football. Well, it should be, but the US have already placed travel restrictions upon fans from several nations in their hopes of attending the event. This includes the Ivory Coast and Senegal, along with Iran and Haiti. Fans may also fear for their safety and being racially profiled by the US officials as they make their way to the country to follow and support their nation. The lack of questions around this troubled build-up to the competition, despite years of questions by the media around the Qatar World Cup, show exactly where prejudices lie. There should be concerns about this World Cup in the US, and there have been a belief that the World Cup should be boycotted by many fans already. In recent days, it has seen 16,000 tickets cancelled as fans do not wish to attend such an event. Now, there were already several issues regarding this World Cup, with ticketing being a major one and the price of them. But the threat to life should be seriously considered by FIFA in terms of stripping the USA of this World Cup. Now, should they strip the USA of this World Cup, where would the games go? Obviously, they're hosting the World Cup with Mexico and Canada, so the games could go there. And while it's obviously, as I said earlier in this piece, not easy for fans, and fans might be upset, they may make their way with costs increasing to go support their nations in either the other two North American nations. Now, what do you think? Do you think America should be stripped of this World Cup? Do you think the issues are concerning and should be raised more in the media? And look, it's not about what the thoughts of the Trump regime are, whether you agree with it or not, but coming into a massive international competition, questions should be raised. It shouldn't just be accepted that this is normal. Anyway, I've been Brendan McGilligan. Thank you very much for listening.